The white horse wasn't noble anymore after a bullet tore through the chest of its rider. The German officer tumbled down, an American soldier, face locked in stone without a shred of victory, struck him again. Not because he needed to, but because today, everyone out here needed something to take it out on. Across the smoke-choked, steel-littered battlefield, the tank Fury sat waiting. Inside, the crew sat between rage and grief. One seat was empty, and they all knew whose it was. World War II, where dreams turned to ash. Morality went on a long vacation, and everyone got really creative at killing. And in the middle of it all, there's Fury, an unbeatable steel beast, until it chokes on mud and leftover enemies. Inside, a crew that's bathed in blood more often than in water. Their leader, Wardaddy, the stepdad you never asked for but will smack you if you load the wrong ammo. The tank rumbled forward, its tracks chewing through mud, rolling into the American camp. Mud pooled around their boots, swallowing footsteps, muting the world. No cheers, no embraces. Just the hollow eyes of other tank crews who knew the exact taste of loss. The body of their friend wrapped in wet olive drab. "Welcome home," someone muttered, voice flat, like offering greetings at a funeral. In the mud-choked, diesel-stinking camp, a young man arrived. Uniform crisp, boots still shining, a face that looked like it just graduated college, not crawled out of hell. Norman. Assigned here by paperwork, not by choice. He stood awkwardly in front of Fury, staring at the steel beast like a tourist lost in a zoo staring at a hungry lion. Eyes that had seen too many men die now sizing this kid up like a racehorse still learning to stand. The moment his boots hit the inside, a wave of humid heat wrapped around him. The cramped space felt like the belly of a metal animal, filled with heavy breathing and suspicious stares. Norman tried to find a place to sit, but every movement made him bump into a lever, a shell, or someone's boot. The smells all blended together: sweat, oil, tobacco, and a faint trace of death that never left. Wardaddy stood by the map with the other tank leaders, listening to orders from an officer who looked far too clean to have ever crawled through the muck. "Head north. Link up with Baker Company, 41st. Protect their flank," the officer said firmly, like moving pawns on a chessboard, forgetting these pawns breathe, bleed, and reek of gasoline. Wardaddy simply nodded. No comments. The war had gone on too long to waste breath on useless conversations. Soon, Fury and the other tanks lined up. Their engines roared, fighting against the mud that tried to swallow the steel tracks. Inside, Norman sat stiffly, overhearing half jokes, half complaints from the other crews in the convoy. Wardaddy told to the newcomer, "If something makes you think twice, don't think. Pull the trigger. Out here, hesitation only gets you killed or gets us all killed." Said they rolled through German soil, roads turned to sludge, littered with the tracks of those who had passed before. On the roadside, refugees shuffled slowly, pale faces, empty eyes, carrying what was left of their lives in sacks or rickety carts. The convoy crept forward beneath a canopy of thick trees. Norman caught movement in the bushes, a group of young German boys. Seconds later, the boys burst out, raising a crude RPG launcher. Whoosh! The missile shot forward, slamming into the Sherman tank just ahead. The explosion roared, flames swallowing steel, and the screams of its crew pierced Fury's cabin. Wardaddy glanced at him, a look sharper than any bullet. Now you see why kids isn't in the war dictionary. Fury rolled in slowly between rows of tanks and trucks already gathered. The muddy field that served as Company 41's base looked like a massive bog, soaked in diesel fumes, sweat, and the smell of salted meat from the mess tent or maybe the battlefield. Inside the command post, the commander tapped a finger at a point along the front line. "Here, Charlie Company's pinned down. Machine guns at the end of the street, anti-tank positions on both flanks. They're not getting out on their own." We need 4 tanks to punch in, grab them, and bring them home. After that, Wardaddy continued giving instructions to all tank commanders. They'll push into next town, clear out the remaining krauts. The convoy rolled into street. Wardaddy peered through the periscope. Contact front. 2 MGs. 1 o'clock. Norman. Light 'em up. Fury and 4 other tanks crept into the battlefield. Up ahead, Company 41 soldiers lay prone, enduring the storm of lead. As the tanks drew closer, they began to roll to their sides, dragging their rifles, slipping in behind the hulking steel beasts that now served as their shields. Enemy rounds pinged off Fury's armor with sharp, cold clangs, sounds that were either a comfort or a reminder that death was inches away. Grady swung the turret to the right. Anti-tank on that corner! The other tanks in the column poured fire down the street. American infantry advanced alongside, hugging Fury's sides. Every step drew enemy fire, but every burst was answered with something louder, meaner. Norman spotted a silhouette darting between the shattered walls. His finger rested on the trigger, but the distance between seeing and shooting felt like an endless chasm. He clenched his teeth and never pulled. Wardaddy gave him a quick glance, saying nothing with his mouth, but everything with his eyes. If they live, we die. An SS soldier was dragged out of hiding. Wardaddy called Norman politely. Wardaddy stood before Norman, pistol in hand, eyes like steel. "Put him here," he ordered. Norman shook his head slightly. He already surrendered. Wardaddy stepped closer, shoving the rifle into Norman's chest. "You think war cares about him? Pull the trigger, Norman!" Wardaddy's voice was flat, cold. The gunshot shattered the stillness.
Norman.
Wardaddy delivered the message without a single word, that on the battlefield, hesitation invited death, not only for oneself but for everyone nearby. The rest of the crew regarded Norman with a softer presence, a brief embrace, a light pat, or simply a non-judgmental nearness. No words of comfort were offered, yet the warmth was enough to make him understand. Inside the cold steel of Fury, they still looked out for one another. Fury rolled forward again, bodies hung from wooden posts, German civilians condemned as traitors for refusing to submit to the regime, a grim reminder that wartime fanaticism spared no one. As the town came into view on the horizon, the rumble of tank engines blended with the whistling of artillery. The first shell struck a brick wall, shattering the silence like fractured glass. Gunfire erupted, machine gun bursts cutting through the air, answered by the booming cannons of Fury and the other tanks. Shards of brick and dust flew as the remaining SS troops were flushed from their cover. The streets turned into a brief killing ground, and within minutes, the last pockets of resistance fell silent. Dust still hung in the air as the last gunshot faded. The tanks halted in the center of the square. A few German civilians emerged from splintered doorways, their faces pale, eyes filled with both fear and relief. Amid the shadows of the ruined town, Wardaddy caught the silhouette of a woman in a second-floor window. Without hesitation, he motioned to Norman and pushed him toward the building's entrance, pistol already in his hand and ready to speak for him. Behind a weathered wooden door, the woman stood frozen, her face pale. Wardaddy's weapon lifted slightly, a quiet reminder of who was in control. The room was searched in moments. From the corner, a small sound emerged, and then a young, fair-haired girl appeared. Her niece, pretty, untouched by the mud of war, like something that shouldn't still exist in this world. Wardaddy lowered his gun, his breath heavy, but his voice calm. "Cook something," he said. Not a request, but an order dressed in polite tones. Norman stood by the doorway, unsure if he was witnessing an act of humanity or the opening scene of another disaster. Wardaddy asked calmly her name. "Emma," the woman replied. Wardaddy pulling 6 eggs from the pocket of his grimy coat, God knows where he'd found them, and let her to cook. Norman, who had been lingering at the edge of the scene, spotted an old piano in the corner. Hesitantly, his fingers pressed the first key, then another. Emma turned toward the sound. She began to sing, her voice gentle yet steady. Wardaddy stood still. Maybe for now he could allow the young and the living to feel the rush of life. If you're not going to sleep with her, I will. The bedroom door creaked open. Emma stepped out first, hair messy. Norm followed, walking slowly, her gaze downcast but with a faint, uncontainable smile on her lips. At the table, Wardaddy sat smoking in silence. The thin veil of cigarette smoke mixed with the smell of eggs sizzling in the pan. Grady came in first, his steps heavy, his eyes scanning Emma like he was assessing a cut of meat at the market. "We've had enough dealings with Germans today. Don't make me add your name to that list," he said quietly, almost like advice but with a sharp edge. Wardaddy tried to handle situation elegantly, then a soldier hurried over. The commander wanted to see him. Wardaddy stood in front of his commander. "This crossroad is vital. The enemy will try to push through here to retreat and to strike back. You and your crew will hold it at all costs," he said. The hum of tank engines and heavy boots filled the air until the sky was ripped apart by the roar of German aircraft. The next second, a deafening explosion. Dust, bricks, and shards of glass rained down. Norman ran toward Emma's building, eyes wide, lungs burning. Grady strode toward him. "Get up, rookie! We've all lost someone in this damn war. You think you're the only one?" His tone was sharp. Norman stood silent, his face pale, still haunted by Emma's death in the blast. Wardaddy glanced at him briefly. Nothing could ease that grief, but duty left no room for mourning. The Sherman convoy crawled down the dirt road. Then it came, a thunderous blast. A German Panther, its cannon spitting death with terrifying precision. Another Sherman tried to return fire, but its shell bounced uselessly off the Panther's thick armor. Wardaddy seized control, his voice cutting through the chaos. He ordered Fury and the other Shermans to flank, pushing forward under heavy fire. The battlefield shook with the roar of engines and the clash of steel. One countershot, and the tank was gone. Black smoke filled the air, screams mingling with explosions. The last surviving Sherman tries to distract the Panther, giving Fury an opening, but the German tank proves relentless, destroying it as well. Now it's only Fury against the mighty Panther. Wardaddy pushes his crew to make a daring maneuver, Fury closing the distance. At near point-blank range, they fire a shot that pierces through the Panther's armor. Boom! The beast is finally slain. The battlefield falls silent except for the crackle of burning steel. Fury stands as the lone survivor of the duel, Norman and the crew knowing just how close they came to death. Silence pressed down on everyone. No shouts of victory. Fury, keep going. Fury rumbled forward alone on a desolate country road. Wardaddy kept his eyes fixed ahead. Suddenly, a violent blast tore through the ground. Fury had struck a landmine. The tracks snapped apart, leaving the steel beast crippled in the middle of the intersection. Then Wardaddy turned to Norman. "You take the front watch. Our eyes and ears depend on you." Norman crouched low in the tall grass by the roadside. Through the cover of leaves, movement caught his eye. An entire column of German SS troops marching in formation. Not dozens, but hundreds. He immediately called out to Wardaddy and the rest of the crew. "There are hundreds of them, SS troops, fully armed. They're heading straight for us." Wardaddy slowly turned his gaze down the road, his eyes heavy with realization. Bible snapped first. "We have to get out of here. This tank's done. We don't stand a chance. Listen, you all still have a chance to live. Go, leave me here. Fury is my home." The words fell heavy. The crew froze. Norman moved. The rookie climbed onto the turret of Fury, and one by one the others followed Norman. Bible, Gordo, then Kunas. Each man returned to his post. No more words were needed. That night, they chose not to run, not to surrender, but to fight, together, as a family. The crippled tank Fury had just become their last fortress. With their resolve hardened, the crew of Fury sets up their final stand. Grenades are placed at every corner, the last bullets divided with precision. They know that once the enemy arrives, it's no longer about winning or losing. It's about holding on with everything they have. From a distance, the heavy footsteps of enemy soldiers draw nearer. The rattling of chains, shouts, and rifles being readied echo through the air, signaling that the storm of death is almost upon them. Then, the first blast rips through the enemy line. Boom! Welcome party delivered. Norman fumbles with his rifle, spraying bullets like he's watering a damn garden. The firefight turns insane. Bullets raining, grenades popping, enemies multiplying like they're on a damn buy one get one free sale. Wardaddy keeps firing like the man's auditioning for a Rambo sequel. Inside Fury, the dreaded click-click echoes. Every gun's dry. The silence that follows is heavier than any explosion. One by one, they slip out of the tank, crawling through a storm of bullets to grab the ammo crates lying outside. Every second out there is a coin flip between life and death. But what choice do they have? Wardaddy takes a hit. Bible rushes over, patching him up with trembling hands. "You're not just our commander. You're the spine holding us together. Don't you dare check out yet, boss." Then, silence. A chilling, suffocating quiet. Out of the darkness, the dreaded SS soldiers emerge, lugging heavy weapons capable of punching straight through Fury's armor. The next instant, a blast tears through the air. Grady goes down, the first to fall. The mechanic who kept Fury alive, now silenced forever. The ammo runs dry again. The situation was known to the enemy. Fury's worst climax was that moment. The enemy then surrounded Fury. And then, they slither out of Fury. Grenades are primed, rifles reloaded with whatever scraps remain. Then they charge the SS soldiers head-on, unleashing chaos with every last bullet, every last blast. Gordo clutches the last grenade, the pin's pulled. He's about to hurl it straight into the SS line, but a bullet finds him first. Wardaddy was still outside when Gordo got hit by the grenade, and then Bible went down right after. Not long after Bible, Wardaddy became the target of a sniper. It wasn't just one shot. Another round hit and knocked him down, but he still managed to crawl back inside. Wardaddy bleeding and broken. "I'm sorry, son. None of this is on you, but listen. Don't you ever surrender. They won't give you a clean death." Wardaddy, hand trembling and soaked in blood. "Down there. There's a way out. Crawl through it. Hide. And live. That's an order. That's an..." In the cramped crawl space beneath Fury, Norman holds his breath. Through a narrow slit, he sees the boots of SS soldiers marching just above him. But the soldiers pass by, oblivious. They never realize a young soldier hides beneath their feet, clinging desperately to the fragile thread of survival. Dawn breaks. Smoke still rises from the wreck of Fury, the ground littered with bodies. Before leaving the crawl space, Norman climbs back into Fury. Inside, Wardaddy's body lies still among scorched steel. Norman takes off his jacket and gently drapes it over his commander's body. A final tribute. The sound of footsteps draws near. Then they find him. Norman crawls out shaking, caked in blood and dirt. One soldier stares in disbelief. "Jesus Christ, you're still alive." Norman doesn't answer. Words have left him. He knows the war isn't over. it just decided to let him live. This story was inspired by the real Sherman tank crews who fought across Europe in World War II. While Fury and its crew are fictional, their characters were drawn from the true experiences of American armored divisions. The Sherman tank was often outmatched by German steel, but it was the grit, sacrifice, and brotherhood of its crews that made history.